3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today I review Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. This comes by request of Patreon subscriber Colby Jones. Just letting you guys know, this handmade mask right here is October's mask giveaway for Patreon subscribers only. So if you would like a chance to win this mask, you have until October 31st to enter in by becoming a Patreon subscriber. Check it out in the links down below. Alright, so let's get to the review. So, Dark Knight of the Scarecrow is a 1981 horror movie. Just off the top, I love late 70s, early 80s horror movies. Definitely some of my favorite. Where there's no blood, minimal at most, juxtaposed to what we see shortly later in the 80s, where blood is everywhere. But in the early 80s, but especially in the late 70s, but even into the early 80s, you see very little blood. A la Black Christmas, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, etc. This movie definitely falls into that category. There's very little blood, if any at all, but it has this really cool element that I love so much about the early 80s, late 70s movies. Just this kind of creepy, quiet, calm way of doing things where it's very actor driven. Like in a movie like this, it's such a low budget movie that you really put everything onto the actors. And this one has some pretty solid acting. Granted, the only acting mostly throughout this movie is your villains, these really crappy redneck pieces of shit that you just absolutely hate from the jump, especially the mailman who thinks he's like chief of police or something. Like, I don't know what this guy's deal is, but man, he is such an asshole in this movie. But he does a really great job of playing an asshole. And because of that, I think this movie is fun. There's this overall really kind of cool, creepy element about the movie where things are happening off camera and you never really know what exactly is happening. You just know that people are turning up dead, but you don't quite know who's doing it. So the basic premise is this little girl and this mentally handicapped man have a friendship. But you can tell right away the mentally handicapped man, Bubba, is very much childlike. And so right away you love him, and it kind of reminds you of this whole Frankenstein element. You know, Frankenstein and how he and the little girl become friends. And you know that he's not the villain. You know he's not evil. In this story, basically, the mailman and a couple of the other rednecks in this small town, they decide it's not okay for this man to be friends with the little girl after she gets injured on accident. So the man goes and hides inside of the Scarecrow, and that's when he's killed by these villains. And so the whole idea of the movie is you just keep seeing the Scarecrow, and you know when you see the Scarecrow, someone's about to die. Thing is, you don't really see the Scarecrow in action. You just see this creepy Scarecrow just chilling, and then stuff goes on off camera. But it's done in a really cool way, and I think it's a lot of fun the way that this movie does it. Something starts happening to all these characters that are involved, all these villains, little by little keep getting picked off. And you don't know if it's the man's mother, or if somehow the little girl's doing it, or if Bubba has come back to life and doing it. You just don't really quite know. And the movie just kind of keeps that mystery going all the way to the end. Like I said, I love late 70s, early 80s movies. This has that real classic, same cool feel that a lot of the movies from the 70s and 80s had that I really like. I think it's fun to have that guessing thing going on and not being really sure who's doing what and who your villain is. It doesn't ever get too dark, but it does deal with some pretty heavy subject matters, and it is pretty sad when the man does die, especially the mother. The actress that plays the mother, I think, does a really good job in this movie. Really, who carries this movie is these villains, and especially the mailman. He's an asshole. And the whole movie, you're just like waiting for this dickhead to get his. So all in all, it was a good time. And I want to thank Colby Jones again for signing up for Patreon and recommending this movie, because I had a great time watching it. So thank you for watching, guys. And please crush that like button. And remember, horror can be fun. I will see you guys next time.